Good morning, Stefan. It's good morning where you are.
Good morning. Yes, I'm in Guatemala at the moment. Yeah.
Ah, okay. Because it's I've met you there. You're one of the very few guests that I've actually met in person. Most of the people that I interview are that's through email or Twitter or Facebook that I get to know these people and then I ask them for an interview. But you have actually met in during my stay in Guatemala as well. And it seems that you already said you're already in or still are in Guatemala. So before we get into like the content of the interview, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, I know a lot about you, but the audience doesn't. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you come from? Where are you now? And what would you consider your cultural frame of reference, if that makes any sense?
Okay. Yeah. So I grew up in Switzerland
Mm-hmm.
and studied there computer science. And after that, I started to work for an international bank in the IT department.
Uh huh.
I started as a poor software developer, but honestly, I was very bad in that
Okay.
because I'm not very much in the detail. I'm kind of like to have kind of a big picture.
Uh
So
huh.
they pushed me quite fast into kind of project management and this kind of areas.
Mm-hmm.
And due to the fact that it was kind of an international company,
Mm-hmm.
we worked together with different people around the globe. So we had a lot of people from Asia, but also teams in the US, and it was for me from a cultural perspective an extremely challenging at the beginning, but
Yeah.
also an extremely exciting time. And I worked for this company 13 years, and during this time I made some kind of a little career. So I had my personal goal, what I like to achieve in that
Uh
company,
huh.
and I was able to achieve that.
Yes.
So, and then a few things happen in my life, which, yeah, kind of make me thought about life in general,
Uh
right?
huh.
So one example was that when my wife, or when we got our second kid, my wife almost died after the birth. So
Uh huh.
that was kind of a thing which, yeah, which was kind of very hard, which that, I mean, life is just going in and
Mm-hmm.
you're working and you're spending time with your kids and you're managing all these kind of things. And then something happened which makes you fully aware that um, it can change within 1 second.
Yes.
So I was short after birth. I was extremely happy that
Mm-hmm.
everything just went well, and
Mm-hmm.
I had my daughter in my arm, and
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of just a happy daddy, right?
Yeah.
Singing and stuff like that. And after 5 minutes, it turned out that my wife just after birth lost so many blood that it was kind of really an emergency. And
Mm-hmm.
for more than 2 hours, I didn't know if I'm now kind of a lonely daddy with two
Yes.
small kids or right. So this kind of things or another thing happened. I I had an offer to move with the entire family to New York
Mm-hmm.
to work there for the company.
Yes.
And that was extremely exciting. And we say, yeah, we love to travel and we love other culture and let's go to the US. And then um, I was in a train to go up to kind of a business meeting,
Mm-hmm.
management,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And the train stops in the railway station very hard. So
Mm-hmm.
I bumped in with my head directly in some kind of a poster, which was
Yes.
in the train. And on this poster, it was written, it was kind of a promotion for a rescue company.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, okay, and immediately I had a heart attack, or out of nothing, I had a heart attack,
Like about
something
a
like that.
real one, a sit not in the brain, not in the mind. It's a physical one.
It was on the picture, the poster from kind of a rescue uh, helicopter
Yeah.
who rescued a person. And the slogan on that poster was, and out of nothing, I had a heart attack.
Hmm.
So this was kind of, I asked myself, why should I now go through the US and work again and again and again, or just kind of go and spend time with the family?
So okay, so these are like two incidents, and I know we've talked for quite a significant amount of time when I was over in Guatemala doing my Spanish lessons, and you have and we'll get to that more so, because people might wonder, okay, so he was in corporate banking or corporate IT.
Yeah.
That's what your life was. Then a number, and you described two incidents happened, and then something changed. Something changed in your mind, and because that attracted me to talking to you, and and keep coming back to where you guys are right now. By the way, if you're listening to this podcast and you want to see what's actually the view that Stefan has, then go to culturematters.com/YouTube, and you can actually look at the video and look at the setting, the scenery where he currently is. I've seen better sceneries. It's maybe you can show us around a little bit later. But something happened. You decided to step out of corporate life and throw your whole life around. Because what are you doing right now, and what led to that decision? How did that work?
We are now on the road since a little bit more than 420 days. We sold everything in Switzerland, so we sold our house and just give our furniture away to friends and other people. And our kids kind of give away all the toys and stuff like that. So everything we currently have is in this little car here behind me.
It's not that little, Stefan. It's not that little.
It's
not 18, that big either, but it's if that's your whole household, it's not a lot.
Yeah, it's 18 square meter, and that's currently all we have since a little bit more than 1 year. And we shipped that car to the US, to Baltimore, and started there a road trip through the US, which took us 6 months, and then we ran out of visa time. Then we headed to Mexico and spent there another 6 months, and then we ran out of visa time, and then we headed to Belize, and now we are in Guatemala, and tomorrow we are reaching El Salvador, and the plan is to travel all the way down to Argentina. That's our plan.
That's the plan. Okay, so but I mean, you practically lost your wife during childbirth, right? You literally bumped your head, and you realized all of a sudden you had this vision, like, why am I in this corporate rat race?
Yeah.
So why change all this? I mean, why? I was going to say, why throw it all away, which of course you don't, not literally, but that's a very unsure and unsecure step you're taking, isn't it?
Yes.
So how did the family react to that? Again, I mean, the Swiss, I'm going to compare you, not to equal you with the Germans, but the Swiss in general tend to be more conservative, you make the best watches, you make the best pens and stuff like that. So conservative, and why did you change all this?
That's a good question. We really had this dream and the vision to spend 24 hours, 7 days a week, just with the kids and see how they growing up.
Yes.
So that was the vision, but how we getting the courage to let everything go? And what we made is some kind of we made it kind of worst case scenarios.
Okay.
So we say, okay, what happened if the worst thing happened on that trip? And we say, okay, what happened if somebody gets serious sick?
Yeah.
And then we say, I mean, that can happen in Switzerland as well. It has nothing to do with the trip. We say, okay, what happened if you have an accident? Yeah, that can happen in Switzerland, that can happen in Guatemala, that can happen everywhere. And we figure out the worst thing who can happen is that somebody steal kind of our home.
Yes.
And then you kind of have, and then we say, okay, and we say, okay, then we just buy a ticket, fly back to Switzerland, and start in Switzerland from scratch. So we search for a job, and we live in Switzerland, and we figure out that in our worst case scenario, we end up living in Switzerland and working. And I say that's currently what we are doing, right?
Yeah. I've seen you guys. You're living you're living the dream that a lot of people are reading about, or maybe only dreaming about or thinking about.
Yeah.
And were you the first one that sort of came up with this idea that the rest of the family easily follow? I know your kids are really small, so they will just take life as it is, I guess.
Yeah.
But was that easy to convince your wife? If it's too personal, Stefan, then we'll skip the question, okay?
No. We talked a lot about that, really. On weird places, like on this in the ski area. What we sometimes made is some kind of a vision board. So in our bedroom, we had a big wall, which we just put pictures on. If this situation happened in my life, wow, that's awesome, right? So we put a lot of pictures, and we discussed a lot of these pictures, because these pictures were some kind of different. So my wife, she loves the adventures. She would love to go to Africa and doing safari and stuff like that. And so this was some kind of different situation, and we discussed a lot about that. And in fact, it's surprisingly that so many things come together, which we can say a lot of these dreams kind of just became real.
Yeah.
In situations we didn't expect like that.
Yes.
So I guess that's maybe a methodology we use, that our job is to have a vision, and then we keep our eyes open to see if the doors go open into this direction, right?
Yes.
And then you kind of treat yourself a little bit harder to say, okay, let's take this door, even if so this is kind of, the way is not our business. We don't ask about yourself, how can I achieve it?
No, you put a goal out there. I want to achieve this, and the how will follow in a way.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's kind of crazy, because we tend to challenge each other to put our goals and vision higher and higher and higher.
That's cool.
That's a little bit challenge we had, because when I say my vision was to spend a lot of time with the kids and see how they're coming up, instead of being 12 hours in the office and before. So I spent a lot of time in the office and worked really hard. But and the point was really that I can say, okay, let's work part-time, right? That's reduced down to 60 or 50%. So then I have more time with the kids.
Yeah.
But we say the highest goal I can achieve is that I just fully here for my kids. 7 days, 24 hours. That's it. That was for me the highest goal to achieve in this direction.
Other than the compromise of maybe working 80% or 60% or something like that.
Exactly.
I want to get to this, because what you're referring to, as you and I discussed in person in Guatemala, was it's the so-called law of attraction. But I want to go to that. I want to come back to that as well. I have a couple of questions before that, and that's. And I always use a blank piece of paper, and slowly I'm writing a little bit of notes here and there. You live currently on 18 square meters. You get your thing. You shipped it from Germany, I think, from the north of Germany to Baltimore. That's what you told me. How about your family? I mean, the relative conservative Swiss. The family must, not your direct family, but the people around you, your neighbors, your must have thought, like, what is wrong with him or them?
Yeah.
Or is that the common reaction, or were they fully supportive?
I guess there was two kind of extremes in terms of reactions. Our direct families, they kind of thought that we are now they are right, because they said they're successful, they have a house, they're really kind of, we was at that moment happy, really, with everything. So it was not kind of a flu they really ask us, what's wrong with that? And we say, it's nothing wrong, right? But it's really, they couldn't understand it. And the first thing we made is that we had a kind of a very nice car, let's say that way. and we just give it back and replaced it with a very old car to save money for the trip. That was our first kind of immediate action, like an inspired action. Let's do something which goes into that direction.
Right.
And we say, okay, let's save a lot of money for that trip. So that was the first thing. Let's just go that car and replace it. And as we arrived with this old car, they both said, okay, they're serious about it.
Yes. Yeah. I can just see people's eyes like, oh my God, what is going on? You know, he was such a good kid. He could learn really well. He had a good job. You know, why throw it all away? But you're not you're not throwing it away. You got something really good in return, I guess.
Yes, exactly. And it's really we are really in peace of also with the companies we left, and we played it really kind of transparent from the early beginning that we have to this intention. And I discussed it with my boss several times. I say, look, I don't know how long it takes, but that's my personal vision. Yeah. And like my boss, he completely fully support me.
Oh, that's good.
And he really say, yeah, do it. It's simply the best time because the kids are small, so it's kind of easy going, and you will enjoying. And so this was this kind of two kind of extremes. Either people say, wow, I would love to do something like that. Or otherwise it's, what's wrong, right? Switzerland is beautiful. Yeah. Why are you going to Guatemala?
It's true. It's a question back on culture, because this is the Culture Matters podcast. Is your corporate past, or you told us in your corporate past you worked with Asians, with Americans, etc. To what extent has that helped you dealing with different cultures that you dealt with in the US or Canada or Belize, and now Guatemala, and then further going down south? To what extent is that an aid? Is that helping?
It helps a lot. I had the pleasure to went through one of these cultural awareness training in my company, and that was a huge benefit in terms of just understanding and know why kind of people behave different, believe different things, act different, negotiate different. It's all, and it was some kind of a really, really very valuable ground for me. And I really come out with more or less the conclusion for me they're all equal, right? We are all human beings and nobody is stupid.
No.
We simply grow up kind of in different situations and have been trained in education with different kind of values. And that's all. And that was for me a huge benefit. And before this cultural training, I always saw this kind of virtual intercultural teams as a huge challenge, right? In terms of communication, in terms of the time shift you always have to these countries and stuff like that. But then I really changed my complete mindset into this is just a great thing which you can take advantage.
Yes.
Because due to the differences of the mindsets and everything, you have such kind of a strong team. Because if you can use these different kind of cultural differences in a positive way in your project, in your company, it turned out that we was able, or I as a project manager was able to create complete different outputs, which did kind of very diverse teams.
Yeah, I should actually make you do my commercial, because you're probably the best commercial, the best ad that you can.
It's really that comes out of the deep of my heart. If you have some kind of a opportunity to do something like that, it's really worth it. And it was some kind of an eye-opening. And I would say I have two quotes which help you on, as well as if you're working in a company. culture matters
Yeah.
and intention matters. I really see that very often. Like my kids here in Guatemala, my son played yesterday the entire day with other kids here in Guatemala, and they play football together. He has no clue about this cultural
No.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
But he has a clear intention.
Okay.
He likes to build friendship. He likes to play football. And he just going with open heart to this kind of people, and just his intention is always kind of clear. And as long as you treat people with a smile and respectful, then you can't do something wrong.
That's true. I guess it's funny how you can see kids grow up coming from, let's say, the Western world, Switzerland in your case, your two young children. In South Africa, they call them colorblind. The young kids are colorblind. They don't see color. They don't see race. A kid is a kid. It's about playing the football game in your example here. So they grow up colorblind. And if we can actually, as parents, keep them like that, then we would have possibly maybe a smoother world, or hopefully less, prejudice and racism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, all right. It's before we get into a philosophy course, which I'd love to do, but then I'd have to buy you a beer in between, and that's going to take some time. Just a question out of curiosity, because you've been traveling quite long and quite far as well. What is your most interesting experience you have had, maybe yourself or as a family so far? The most interesting, the nicest, the best, or something that sticks out?
Everything. I guess the best experience always turned up if you have no plan, no clue. Just I can give you a few examples. Like we came to Belize and we say, what's Belize? It's some kind of, you just took a little bit a brochure and go through and say, okay, we had no clue about Belize and we had no clue what we like to see. So we just crossed the border with no plan, which, sometimes happen, right? So we arrived and we just had a first little meal after the border, and I put a picture on Instagram and say, we arrived in Belize, like that. And then somebody who moved over from Europe to Belize and bought an island in the Caribbean Sea saw that picture and immediately came back and say, hey, you're in Belize, you have to visit me, right? I say, okay, I mean, we didn't know each other, right? We just got this invitation and we discussed that and say, I mean, we cannot lose something. Just go there and drive there and see how it looks like. And so we went to that place and he came and he organized for us a campground for free directly at the Caribbean Sea. We arrived and
picture perfect.
Oh, awesome, right?
Yes.
And then he introduced us to a guy who owned an island in the Caribbean Sea. And this island is kind of 10 meter to 5 meter, just one house, a few palms, just a coral reef around that. And he said, in 3 days, I go to grab my guests and bring them back. So if you like to spend a day free on that island, and we say, I mean, this is like a dream, right?
Yes.
Because this island, if you like to book a night on that island, you wait at least 2 years getting a spot.
Yeah.
And so it's really this, and we have so many kind of things which happen in that way, that as you have no plan and you just keep your eyes open for any kind of adventure, then it always ends up in something which is just paradise.
Yes. It's something, it's possibly a nice segue into the thing that you and I talked about quite a lot when I was there a couple of weeks ago. And that is, it's a phenomenon called, it goes by different names. It's a phenomenon called the law of attraction. Yeah. It's the, or the power of the universe, or some people call it God, which is equally good. as well.
Yeah.
It's been made very popular in a movie and a book by I lost her name now. It's called The Secret. It's a book and a movie, and basically it's. I mean, in your own words, you can probably explain it better. I would say the secret or the law of attraction is that, you know what, whatever you focus on, whatever you put in your mind, you can actually create that in reality. And I'm making hand gestures here for a thought become things. Yeah, and it's that kind of thing, and that is something you are a strong, or you as a family are strong believers in, I think.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit how has that worked? This is a bit of a sidestep from culture, but nonetheless, I found it interesting enough to bring it up because I'm a strong believer of the same thing as well. So how has that worked for you?
Kind of getting the first time in touch with something like that, I was some kind of curious about.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was a scientist in terms of computer science, all the stuff. So I was very, as you say, conservative and say, okay, if that concept is true, how can I kind of not just make use of it? How can I really figure out if it's work or not?
Yes.
And I made for myself kind of different exercises, which I treat myself and say, if that is reality,
yes,
how can I prove it for me that I can say I believe on that, right? And I made several things. I ran a marathon, just kind of this mindset things.
Yes.
And at that time, just to have that picture a little bit in mind, I was more than 100 kilos. So I was like that, fat, untrained.
Yes.
So, and I just registered myself for kind of a marathon. And I say, okay, my vision is to kind of run that marathon and reach more or less the finish line with a smile in the face. I don't like to suffer.
All right.
I just like to enjoy it, right? Yeah. And so what I made, honestly, I used more or less the way to my office, this 30 minutes in the nothing else, just sitting in the train, having closed eyes, imaginate how it feels, how it looks, how it smells, if you just run through this kind of end line with your smile in your face.
Yes.
And that was the only thing I did.
Okay.
And then at this morning, I selected a marathon which is at least flat, because marathons are normally going quite up and down. So let's take an easy one. I underestimated that it was end of October, and at this time it snowed. I went up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was crazy excited about to run this marathon. And my wife, she couldn't say, "You're crazy, right? you like to run 4 hours through this snow?" Yeah. And I did not have a kind of a clue. It was really crazy, but I ran it, and honestly, I cried after the finish line, and it just went smoothly. And that was some kind of a thing which kind of brought other things up and say, okay, what's the next challenge? So I say to myself, now I'm 107 kilos. And then I just put a picture from myself naked, more or less, or just with shorts.
Yes.
And I just put it on the computer and move it into the shape which I like to see myself.
So you photoshopped yourself, yes.
I photoshopped myself, really. And I just put that picture in the bathroom so that I can see it every day, and it keeps remind me. And then so many things happen in my life, and as of now, I lost 22 kilograms, and
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, you're a tall guy. I know how tall you are, and by far taller than I am. And indeed, you don't look like you have no overweight. I mean, that's you shed all that weight. And you told me that indeed you took the picture of yourself and imagined yourself being thin, made
yeah,
that picture, and then your appetite just diminished. It became less and less and less. So without going on a real diet, you just ate less, and you were still feeling full. And
yeah,
so you had enough proof for yourself that this law of
yeah,
attraction, this power of the universe, the secret,
yeah,
whichever you want to call it, worked for you and works for your family
yeah,
as well.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It's an amazing, interesting story. It's an interesting journey as well from the beginning of being in safe, stable, extremely democratic Switzerland, with all their referenda and their chocolate and watches in corporate life. You had it going all the way, and now look at you. You're in Antigua, Guatemala. So it's you're a long way from home, but I think you feel a lot more at home, possibly, maybe.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's I really figure out that it's home is at the end where my heart is. So it's we as we started, we really say, okay, it's what a great opportunity because
Uh-huh.
if you fall in love
Mm-hmm.
with a specific spot, you just settle down, right?
Yes.
And when you have this kind of opportunity that, I mean, you have everything with you, you can settle down
Mm-hmm.
in 2 days if you want. So you're really kind of flexible and mobile. And at the beginning, we really discuss and always kind of compare things.
Uh-huh.
How was it in Switzerland? How was it in Germany? How was it? How, what happened if you now settle down in Florida and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And you always start to compare and say, this is positive, this is negative. And
Yes.
it always turned out that nothing is perfect.
No.
But on the other hand, everything is perfect
Yes.
because
That makes good
the
sense.
Caribbean Sea is perfect with the mosquitoes. They're part of this kind of thing, right?
Yes.
Switzerland is perfect because even if it's cold,
Mm-hmm.
this is, yeah, that's
It
Switzerland,
is
right?
what it is. Yes.
Yeah, it
Yes.
is what it is. So
Yeah.
it's really, we figure out that you can just become happy
Mm-hmm.
or being happy as soon as you start to love things as they are.
Yeah. It's true. Stefan, I'm looking at the clock here at my bottom, the left bottom of my screen here, and I tend to keep the podcasts around 30 minutes. We're slightly over 30 minutes, 33, which is perfectly fine. I have two more questions for you, if I may.
Yes.
One is the most difficult one for most people, and I always forget to prep my guests for this. So the most difficult question for most people is, can you give us 3 tips to become more culturally competent, to become more culturally aware from your own experience? Right. And the last question is, which will give you a little bit of time to think, how can people get in touch with you and donate to the trip? Because that's another fascinating thing about the trip. And if you'll allow me, can I tell that story?
Yeah, yeah,
Is that's it? Because I won't mention the amount, but it's you decided to put up a donation button on your site or Facebook site. I'm not really sure which one it is, but you can tell us in a moment. And you're getting a significant amount of donations from people around the world that are just say, no, I just really like what these guys are doing. Yeah, I'm going to give them $5 or $10 or whatever. Or you can donate to filling up the gas tank, or you can donate to paying the campsite, or I don't know, whatever you have in mind in terms of a I'm making air quotes, good cause for the Broder family to continue their journey.
thank you.
So, but that'll be in the show notes. There will be a link to whichever you want it to be. So, what are 3 tips that you can give us to become more culturally aware or more culturally competent?
3 tips.
Yes.
Tip number 1 is be very kind of aware of your intention.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be shy. You can't do something wrong being in touch with people from other cultures.
Uh-huh.
As soon as you smile and stay respectful, you can't do something wrong. That's my experience. So if if you treat people with love and open heart, you're always fine. So that's the first thing.
Great.
The other thing is really, if you have the chance to go to one of these cultural awareness trainings, just doing, it's an eye-opening point. End of story. And a third thing is, we are all human beings, right? So the challenge, which is sometimes in companies, you work kind of with different kind of people around the globe, is that you think that maybe other people give a kind of a less value because they cost less or something like that, or they have a lower salary, and this kind of, we had in the company I worked for, we kind of really had this kind of, we talked about low cost employees,
yes,
or high cost employees, which is some kind of a weird thing, because it changed your mind in a way that the value of these people is also different. And not just the value, it ends up that kind of people are different, but they are not, right? So it's, that was for me during that time really a trap.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yes.
And it's, at the end, we are all the same, and everybody participates. Yeah, for a project, for a goal, for an ambition within a company, and to really see everybody like you.
Yeah, great, good stuff. They'll be in the show notes as well. If people want to get in touch with you or the family, because you're a whole bunch of them, how can they do so, please?
Yeah, we have a website. We started everything in Germany. So the website is traumleben.jetzt. That's the German. That was more or less the root of everything. Traum, Leben means dream life, point, and now means now, right? So that's the website. We translated everything now in English, so that it's a little bit more international. And there you can see a lot of videos. We also put kind of inspirations, because we are we are asked so many times about specific questions, so we just put some kind of inspirations to, and the website is really, it's there is no information at all, right? There are so many travel blogs who give you all the informations, how you prepare your car, how you cross the borders, how you getting a visa, everything like that. But that's not our thing. Our thing is really, it's just an inspiration. You can watch videos which we made on the trip. You can read a little bit the blogs we made, experience we made. And there is some kind of an area which you just give some kind of inspirations about life, about living a dream, about establishing the courage to do something like that. And the thing is really that one mental thing is that people think that they need a lot of money.
Yes, that's true.
So, and it's now, the worst thing is that I'm in fact, I was a Swiss banker, right? Which means that guy must have a lot of money. But we just met yesterday here, two guys, and they started with their trip, which brought them now to more than 15 countries in just a little tiny car. They bought that car and it cost them 300 pounds.
Yes.
Really good car, 300 pounds. And since then, they are on the way. They travel a lot through Asia, and now they're currently traveling through Mexico and Middle America. And we just met them and asked them how do you manage all this stuff? Yeah, and they're just creative. So they installed a shopping car on that little car to put stuff in it, because the car is so small that but it works, right? They just put everything in that shopping cart, who is just fixed with strips around the car, and so since then they have everything. It's crazy. If you like to do it, you can do it.
Yes. All right, and people can reach you through your website, which is traumleben.now, which is TRAUM, and then a hyphen, if I'm not mistaken, and then LEBEN.now, NOW.
Yeah.
Stefan, it's been a pleasure talking to you again, this time from a distance and through a cellular connection, which actually held up really well. So thanks to Guatemala Telecom, I think they're doing a good job there. And I'll keep track of you, and hopefully you'll keep track of me, and possibly maybe we'll bump into each other in the future.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope to, yeah.
All right. You take care of yourself, enjoy the day, and have safe travels to El Salvador.
Thank you very much.
Ciao.
And goodbye to everybody. Bye.